and please remain standing for the pledge to the flag.
As we gather here today as members of council, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our community. Keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make Allentown a better city for all. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mr. Hanlon, if you want to do a roll call. You're here.
Okay.
Here.
Yes.
Here.
Here. Thank you. All right, now we're going to have courtesy of the floor. Again, courtesy of the floor is extended to items that are not on the agenda for tonight. There's a paragraph in here about directing the comments to us and no personal attacks. So if you're representing yourself, 3 minutes. If you're representing a group, 5 minutes. Mr. Hirschman.
405 North Gilbert Street, Allentown, Pennsylvania. Mr. Chairman, I would never go after anyone in the city council. Well, my question here is, Mrs. Cadito at the last council meeting mentioned about the importance of having a police department fully funded and have sufficient police. As I look at the 2019 budget, council cut out one patrolman. Why? If Mrs. Cadito is concerned having these police were downtown or not, and why did council cut out one patrolman in the budget? There's one patrolman in the budget. I don't have a good picture of it. Look at the budget. And then council, if I'm correct, I asked council to mayor to submit an amendment to the budget to staff the police department was staffed before. And then my next question is, Mayor, when are you going to, we put a 27% tax increase in, of course, a lot of people can't afford it. In fact, I got a phone call from a city employee crying because their health costs went up $50, their rent's going up because of the water rate increase and your tax increase, the landlord's rate. She doesn't know how she's going to do it. She's afraid she's going to become homeless. She said, you gave all the city employees raises, but not retirees, and she doesn't know how she can afford it now to keep all this cost up. I mean, she might become homeless, and you don't like to see people become homeless. And the mayor, in one of the press releases, said he's going to wait now that we don't pay another tax increase next year, which not all we will pay because of mayor's 3% tax increase. 3% raise he gave city employees. I'm asking the mayor when he's going to start making cuts in the budget. We don't give $90,000 salaries to people that start like he did mayor with IT. And so I'm asking Mayor, when are we going to start looking for ways to raise additional revenue, or raise real estate taxes as you promised you would do, and cut costs in city government? We can't continue, Mayor, but people are crying already about this 27% tax increase, and they can't. A lot of people don't see how they're going to make it. So I'm asking you, Mayor, to start moving. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Whoever's next?
Reverend Edward E. Victory, 139 South Wilmer Street. Mr. Mayor, City Council, esteemed veterans present and listening at home. Excuse me. This is not about politics, but about veterans being forgotten, sadly, at Center Square Monument erected October 17, 1898. To never forget all those that serve a plaque and sculpture now sits in the basement of Lehigh County admin being denied its proper place by our mayor. The east side of the monument faces east and is a perfect spot. Veterans got their permits before they created it. but now our mayor is holding their permit on them, saying it's a no-go. Read the back of my jacket. The nation which forgets its defenders will itself be forgotten. The mayor is doing just that. We need to put up that monument that the veterans have paid for, right on the east side of it. It will face east towards the museum, and it's a perfect spot for it. Thank you.
Okay, Everett, I think we're gonna let the mayor respond to that, because you're making allegations against him. I don't know where you're getting your information from.
Number one, I am a veteran and a member of Honorary Service Defenders. I have never, and I will never turn my back on a veteran. Now, we're going to give you the exact thing that is happening. It is not the city holding this up. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Leitner. We've been working on this for 4 months. 4 months. Mr. Leitner will explain what's going on. Mr. Leitner.
Thank you. I am also a 27-year veteran of the military. And of all things, that's the last thing I would do is ever turn my back on my brothers and sisters in arms. I'm not going to point fingers or blame anyone, but we have been working with the county. We have numerous emails and contacts of what they need to do in order for us to move forward. That monument and where it's located is not city property, that's the county's. So we've asked them, we've even given them the paperwork of what they need to do. And we will be more than glad to sit down with them, and we've done that to say, hey, come over, we've emailed the forms, fill them out, submit what you need to do, and we'll work with you. So other than that, we're not holding any
Veterans aren't saying that. The veterans have said that to me, that they want it, they've got the space. It's now down in the basement of the county courthouse. I'm gonna go look at it tomorrow, as I told Courtney earlier. And they wanna put it right on the corner, right in front of the other monument.
We
Which is the
understand
proper
that.
place to do it. But you're saying, Ray's saying they can't do it.
It's not the mayor.
No.
It is not the mayor.
That's what they're saying, that's what the veterans are saying.
Well,
There are certain protocols that have to be followed, okay? And they need to be followed for everyone, no exceptions, and they have to follow laws of County. We've been working on this for at least 4 months. I personally met with Major General Jerry Still in my office with the county. Immediately the next day, the county got all the information they needed to do. We're not sitting on it. The county is sitting on it.
Jerry said it was you guys.
it's not. And one other thing is, I believe it's like 10,000 pounds, the actual, the sculpture.
We'll look at it tomorrow.
Right, and it's coming on a flatbed, and that flatbed, we have to stop traffic in order to get that flatbed on, and 7th Street is PennDOT.
I know that.
So we told county what they, exactly, so we've told the county what they need to do, and also with Hamilton Street, we're gonna have to stop traffic to offload that 10,000 pound statue to put there. So, again, with the crane, so, again, we've talked to the county, they know what they need to do. And I've reached out to them, I'm more than glad if they wanna reach out again, we'll stop what we're doing to help make this happen.
They detour 7th Street for other events, why not just detour for that? Would take a lot less longer to detour traffic, to put that in place, than for an event we have up there, Blues and Barbecue, or anyone you wanna talk about.
We agree with you, we're not arguing with you, and we don't wanna stop this from
So we
happening.
just wanna get it done off then, thank you.
And if I'm correct, PennDOT has to give the approval to close down 7th Street, but they also have to get the application from the county before they can close it down. Am I correct in that?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Red.
Sure.
Don Ringer, West End, Allentown. I'd like to know what the legal status is with Cedar Beach Pool, with the legal process.
I don't know if we have an update on that. Yeah.
I could address it. It's in the process of litigation.
Well, the reason I say it, again, the mayor said about Cedar Beach being open, you know, with his state of the city address or whatever. We just had our last flood about 3 weeks ago, and it came within this much of flooding the pool out again. But the next day was amazing. There were pumps down there pumping the water out of the place, muddy water. So is this gonna be the prize of the administration, if this pool is gonna be open to get there pumping muddy water out again?
can't control the rainfall, but we're working on a solution so it doesn't flood again.
Well, Ray, the solution would be to put a bigger berm around the pool.
We're working on a solution, and when we have a solution with our engineering department and our public works department, we will let you know.
But it's gonna look kind of dumb this year again when the pool's closed because of the stream overflowing. The other thing I'd like to bring up, I think we should have a ban here in council for people carrying firearms in here. If you go over to the district courthouse, US courthouse, you're patted down, you're not allowed to carry a firearm in there. If you go to the county courthouse, you're not allowed to carry a firearm in there. Why are we allowing private citizens to walk into city council chamber with firearms? I presume they have a permit, but I don't think it's right to be able to come in here with firearms. Does anybody want to say anything about it?
I was gonna say, we've checked with we've gotten a legal opinion on it, so but if somebody has a personal opinion.
Mr. Ringer, I have instructed Mr. Hanlon, he's working on an ordinance now and a request resolution sent to the state
Okay.
lawmakers asking that very thing. This is controlled by the state. We can't control it. And they would have to do an act, a new law to ban that.
But in this day and age of mass killings every other day,
I agree totally.
we can walk into City Hall and just go bing, bing, bing.
I agree.
It's
That's
not
why
right, you know?
I'm gonna ask, I have already spoken to a number of my colleagues to support this, and a number of them I agreed to already.
I hope somebody expedites this matter.
It's being worked on.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, we're sitting up here, bing, bing, bing. You know, I've been one that's been.
No, they wouldn't shoot you, yeah, they'd shoot me.
Well, so he's sitting back there.
Hey.
If I could say something,
Yes, go ahead.
you know, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but in Pennsylvania, there's actually something called the open carry law.
Yes.
So the fact that that individual is carrying that weapon, number one, that's allowed.
Yes,
It's
it is.
legal.
Yes, it is.
And the other reason is there's nothing posted outside of this building. In order for that not to occur, it would have to be a posting that says no firearms would be allowed in this entire building. And since that is not there, he's within his right to carry that firearm.
Oh, I understand that. I'm not saying it's illegal what he's doing. I'm just saying we should do something to prevent people from coming into this building with firearms.
But, I mean, we also have a police officer, standing right behind everybody. Just in
Okay.
case.
And we have.
He's fine.
And he has a firearm.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Courtesy of the floor. See nobody. Approval of the minutes, Mr. Hanlon.
Okay, approval of the minutes. Okay, December 15 minutes.
Any comment on the December 15th minutes?
Ms. Appa?
No.
You're not gonna approve the minutes? Mr. Grady?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Voda?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Suzuko?
Yes.
Mr. Blank?
Yes.
Yes, and yes, this was-
Thank you.
December 19 minutes.
Yes.
Ms. Appa, say yes. Mr. Grady?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Ms. Voda?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Zuko?
Yes.
Mr. Blank?
Yes.
Right, 7 yeas, no nays. January 16th minutes.
Any comment? Seeing none?
Mr. Greedy?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Zuko?
Yes.
Mr. Blank?
Yes.
Zappa?
Yes.
Right, 7 yeas and no nays. January 16th, council meeting minutes.
Any comments? Seeing none?
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Zuko?
Yes.
Mr. Blank?
Yes.
Zappa?
Yes.
Mr. Greedy?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Right, 7 yeas and no nays.
Thank you. Old business, any old business?
I have one thing.
Boy, I have a few more minutes.
Oh, really? I thought we did, Jim. Whatever.
January 16th, council meeting minutes.
Yeah, 2/16.
That's actually a double.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought we did.
All right. But
All right, scratch that. Old business, Mr. Zuko.
I'm considering this old business because this was part of the budget. I remember when Parks and Recreation was given their presentation, there had been obviously a lot of discussion about the lifeguards. And I believe it was Mr. Hendricks that raised the question of maybe we're not paying them enough. And I believe the figure that was not necessarily decided on, but thought would be a good idea would be around $15 an hour. And I thought that kind of money was close to being put in the budget for that amount. I saw a flyer on Facebook, and it was, I think, actually hanging in City Hall for ads or applicants for $9 to $12 an hour. I think we're doing the same thing we just did before, where we didn't get nobody because of that. And I'm curious about why we're not offering them $13 to $15 an hour.
Mr. Hartzell can talk about that, but I'll start. We're raising the wages incrementally to get to the $14, $15. If you're a new hiree, I don't have the exact numbers, but we'll get those for you. You might start at $9.75 or $9. If you're coming back, you might go to $11. If you come back the following year, you might go to $13 incrementally. We're not going from like $9 right to $15. I wish we could. And just to give you, and we'll get those hourly wage for you. But I talked to Ryan Griffiths the other day. We have about already, I think the number was about 31 lifeguards locked in already, and playground instructors locked in already. And we did get one bit of good news. If we pay a lifeguard, let's say we pay a lifeguard $13, the Workforce Investment Board will pay $10 of that $13, so it will only cost the city $3, because the Workforce Investment Board, they must have got a huge grant from somewhere, and we're tapping into that grant. But yeah, I mean, we would love to go right to 15, but it's incremental stages, and we'll get that for you.
You don't think we're gonna run into a problem though again?
What's that?
You don't think we're gonna run into a problem again?
I can't tell you on February 6th,
I
but
understand that, but.
I made a commitment, Ryan Griffiths, who, in charge of lifeguards, and we made a commitment that every pool will be open 7 days a week, fully staffed, early, for all the hours. I don't know what, as we get closer to April, May, we'll have a better handle on it, but I will get to the rates of the hourly rates.
I've heard the same thing, Mr. Zuko, from Mr. Griffith. He said we're doing much better this year than we were last year at this time.
All right.
People who have already signed on.
And we have a recruiting effort going out there, it's really great. And we have, like I said, we have our new HR director, founded the Turf, and Ryan Griffiths is also. So we'll get you those rates.
Okay. And I believe the lifeguards are a little higher. Those might be like cashiers, salary ranges that you're talking about. Don't forget, part of the problem is not just the pay. If you remember the article last summer in the morning call, they talked about a national firm that staffs pools, and that the operations director for that national firm said they're even having a hard time, and it's not just a pay issue. It's that college kids are going back to school earlier, they're coming out later. The ones who are playing sports are leaving. So part of it is they don't work as long. The summer period in which a lifeguard has become shorter and shorter over time. But Ryan is trying to address all those issues.
Yeah. Like I said, it was addressed, and I thought the amount just seemed a lot lower than what we had planned to attract these people.
Right. Might I suggest, Mayor, that you and the department heads sign up for the Red Cross Lifesaving course?
Because we have the
Well,
office.
30 or so applicants, do you know how many are coming back? That would,
We have right now we have a good, retention rate for coming back.
so they'll be coming back. That
They'll be coming
$12
back, and if they did 1 year, they'll get it, incremental raise accordingly. And if they keep coming back, they'll max out at the top. We'll get you updates, by next council meeting, we'll have updates on the numbers. Playground instructors, we're almost at capacity already.
Well, I used to be a lifeguard, so if you're short, let me know.
What pool do you want?
Sea break work. No, I work. You like Jordan. Yeah, I know. I save some or something.
Okay.
Okay, we're done recruiting? Okay. All right, anything else for old business? Seeing nothing, we have a communications, a 2018 report of the Allentown Environmental Advisory Council. Who's giving us up?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tifu Khan Walker. I am Chair of the Environmental Advisory Council for the City of Allentown. Thank you for including us on your agenda tonight. I will go over our 2018 report, which we filed with the City Council and the Mayor on January 16th. And I'll give you a preliminary look ahead to 2019. So turning to the 2018 report, we are pleased that we were able to accomplish quite a bit last year, despite the fact that one position still remains vacant for over a year. That position is one that is appointed by City Council. We do have an individual named Tim Dutch who has expressed interest in maybe joining the EAC. So you might be seeing an application from him coming soon to you, and we request that you please expedite processing that application. We would really love to have all 7 EAC members, on the EAC and continue to do the good work that the EAC was able to do last year. So with regard to our 2018 accomplishments, you will notice that several of the items on our 2018 report, items 1, 2, 3, and 8, they all go to increasing awareness and accessibility to environmental information. And this is because the EAC has been particularly concerned with how difficult it is to find important environmental information that the city has. And it's like digging, through a pile of straw for the needle in the haystack sometimes. And so what we've been trying to do is to make important information more readily accessible through our webpage. So we have created these logos for some of the more important environmental issues like stormwater and waste recycling, lantern flies. There are big logos right up front. People can click on that logo and take a look at the information some of it that the city itself has compiled and has available is just not so easy to find. We've also been working with the city to make our Facebook page more readily accessible or more accessed by people by linking our Facebook page to the Facebook pages of various city bureaus and departments. And we started that with the Bureau of Recycling and Solid Waste, and we're already seeing some good benefit from that with increased traffic on our webpage. We've also tried to do more Facebook publications of articles on Facebook, just very quick, short little articles on things like cycling savvy, plastic use and recycling, invasive plants, gardens and bees, lantern flies. The idea being that it's just a quick way to get a brief snapshot of information and then a series of links for additional information that people can go and read up if they're interested. And we've been exploring the possibility of holding an environmental awareness fair at a Phantoms game or a Iron Pigs game. It didn't pan out last year, or we may try that again this year. There's a really nice opportunity if we can do that to really get some good communications out to folks about environmental matters. In addition to those efforts that relate to increasing accessibility to environmental information, we also provided input to the various parks steering committees, and environmental input in those steering committees, and we met with the Director of Parks and Recreation on a pretty regular basis as well. We provided input to City Council and to the Zoning Board at zoning board hearings regarding the development of the Barnes Lane property on South Mountain. The EAC was very concerned, we had significant concerns that the environmental benefits provided by that property might be lost if redeveloped as was being proposed. And we expressed those concerns and which we believe did have an impact on the city's actions on that property. We received presentations from on recycling issues and stormwater issues from the Public Works Department staff. And I do want to just convey to the mayor how pleased we are with the work that Public Works Department staff has done with the EAC to really work with us on help. We've been sharing a lot of information. In fact, for 2019, one of the things they have agreed to do is to have an EAC member attend Public Works staff meetings and just be there at their staff meetings to really listen to the conversations and provide input right from the ground up. And that's really how an EAC can truly be effective, is to be part of the conversations from the ground up, so that we're not coming in at the 11th hour and saying, wait, this is not a good idea, because by then decisions have been made, time has been spent, resources have been devoted. It really makes more sense to try and do it way earlier in the process. And we thank you, Mayor, for the really the cooperative nature that we have found from the city of Allentown. Moving on to the next page of our activities, one moment. We organized and led a forum on regional approaches to stormwater issues. The forum was really very well attended by the members of the Public Works, City Department of Public Works, as well as by a variety of other experts from government, nonprofit, and industry sectors, and it really continued a conversation. There was great interest in having further conversations. Allentown being really sort of in the leadership role when it comes to stormwater management, because we are one of the municipality here in the valley that had to have the programs in place way sooner than others, and so we really have a lot more experience with all of this than others in the valley, and can really help with driving regional approaches if they are available to be done. And finally, we had several discussions around encouraging solar development in the city. We did draft up a city council resolution that we are looking at probably submitting to city council soon for action. I personally believe that this is a really good and timely effort for city council to maybe pass just a simple resolution in support of solar development. Particularly in light of the commercial property assessed clean energy program, the CPACE program that the governor had signed off on last year. And as I understand it, it's really getting ready to now launch here in the Lehigh Valley. And the way that program works is that commercial properties can install solar or other clean energy kinds of improvements onto the property. And then they are assessed through a special voluntary assessment, essentially a property tax that's collected by the county. So it enables the commercial property owner to obtain very low-cost financing because of the very straightforward way for the lender to be repaid. For Allentown properties to take advantage of this, City Council is going to need to pass a resolution that's pretty specific to the CPACE program, which we would be very happy, the EAC would be very happy to work with City Council on making that happen. I'm saying personally because this isn't something that the EAC has taken official action on, but I personally believe that it would really help the city of Allentown to convey an image of that we are moving forward, with these kinds of programs and encouraging these types of development within the city. So the resolution that I just mentioned earlier is really just a simple, straightforward resolution supporting solar. It doesn't get us to what we need for the CPACE program, but I do believe that's a good first step for the city to take. So looking forward to 2019, we have informally developed as a team, the EAC, a pretty long list of possible actions that we might want to do in 2019. Our plan is to finalize that list as an official list and prioritize it for action at our February meeting. And we definitely would welcome any thoughts or suggestions that city council members may have. I know I've had some conversations with you, Representative Courtney. We do need to, I think, do some of the things that you're suggesting. There's I'm sure other things that the EAC could do, and again, with a full 7-member EAC, I feel confident that there's a lot more that we could be doing. We are planning to expand our interactions with the city. I mentioned attending staff meetings of the Public Works Department. We will be scheduling regular meetings again with our Parks and Recreation Director. And we are also looking to increase the interaction that the EAC has with City Council, working directly with City Council representatives, as well as attending more City Council meetings, giving presentations at City Council. So we may be requesting you to be put on City Council agenda more than just once a year, so that we can have these conversations. And we have been looking to maybe David Melman, an EAC member, to be the EAC liaison with City Council, and so you may be hearing a lot more from him as he seeks your input and thoughts on various environmental things that we might have in mind. Again, the idea being that we don't want to surprise City Council with something. We want to come to you with something that we've already talked to you about a little bit, and then come to you with the official request. So we thank City Council for your time today. Please do feel free to attend any EAC meeting. We meet the second Monday of every month. We start at 5:15 in the basement of the Allentown Public Library. We unfortunately ended up there because there were too many times that we came to City Hall and found ourselves locked out. So if there's a way to fix that, we would love to be back in this building, because the basement of the Allentown Public Library does not allow us to easily get onto the internet and check on things as we're talking. So it's very limiting for us. But it had become too difficult to keep coming to meetings and finding that we're locked out.
The mayor's shaking his head like, I think that's gonna be taken
Yeah,
care of.
we'll fix it. Just email me I heard what you said, but email me the dates and we'll make sure should it fit for a conference when it's open.
Thank you very much. Does any questions from City Council?
I have a quick question. Thank you, great presentation, by the way. And thank you for the work you're doing. The resolution that you're thinking about bringing to council, when are you planning to do it?
So that resolution, it's a very, very simple, I can tell you right now. When would we do it? So at our February meeting, we will just take one final look at the wording, make sure that there isn't any concerns with it. And probably sometime towards the end of February, we might, are there any concerns with the timing in any way?
Not really. Just want to know because you mentioned there is a grant perhaps from, that would be, from the county. So is that in lieu of, or in
no,
federal
so this
grant or not?
So the CPACE program is actually, so that would be the next step. This resolution that I'm speaking of, the support for solar, is really just the first, kind of declaration to the folks in the city that yes, City Council supports solar.
Yes.
And the next step would be a resolution that's specific to CPACE, and that's actually not a grant program. That is a program that enables easy access to money from lenders, and cheaper access to lenders.
It won't be a grant.
It would not be a grant, it would be a loan, as far as I know. Now, there may be grant components to it, and when it finally rolls out here in the valley, I'm keeping an eye on how that's shaping up, and we will come back to speak to City Council further once that really starts to crystallize. But it's fun, the idea that you can get cheap, right now, cheap loans, because your property is assessed a tax to repay the loan, and it gets paid back that way.
Okay, we can talk offline about some of the issues that are going on across the country with the, with solar panels.
Oh, sure.
Batteries, for example.
Sure, yes. So solar panels have many things that we could further discuss, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, Mr. Robinson?
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Ms. Conwalker, for your presentation. I just wanted to let my colleagues know I did have a meeting last week with Ms. Conwalker, and one of the things that, when she was referencing coming in front of council more often, since according to Mr. Hanlon, the Environmental Advisory Committee, Council, would fall under the purview of the Economic Development Committee, I'm going to be extending an invitation for them to give a quarterly report to the Economic Development Committee so we can have better lines of communication open. And when we do that, it would be given well in advance notice. I would invite all of my colleagues to attend those meetings because I think it is, as Ms. Conwalker said, a really good idea to have more open lines of communication with the EAC because we are unfortunately lagging behind a lot of communities in Pennsylvania, especially our neighbor to the east, Bethlehem, when it comes to some environmental policy. So I think we have some catch up to do, and I really am excited about the work that we can do with this. So thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you very much. And as soon as you get that name, if you get it to Mr. Hanlon, we'll get it to Ms. Office Committee and get it on the agenda. So as soon as you get that information. Anybody else from council? Seeing nobody, anybody from the public on that report? Okay, we'll move on to reports from committees. Committee of the Whole. Committee of the Whole is scheduled for next week, February 13th at 6:15 to review Bill 10 relating to the adjustments on the parking meter rates. I read that. And now the public hearing.
Oh, we're gonna read it.
I don't file a grievance against me here.
The public hearing scheduled for February 20th at 6:30 p.m. to take testimony on Bill 4, which amends the zoning map of rezoning parcels at 1216, 1224, 1226, and 1236 South Meadow Street from RML residential medium low density to B3 highway business, and that's for the Wawa project.
Correct. Okay. Budget and Finance, Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee met on January 23rd at 6:30 p.m. The next meeting is tentatively scheduled for the February 27th. There is a bill number 1 that's on the agenda tonight, so we will talk about it.
Thank you very much. Community and Economic Development, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The committee met on January 30th. We forwarded 2 bills favorably for the February 20th meeting, and 1 hard denial, which I believe is on tonight's agenda. And the bills reported favorably were both in relation to the Wawa. We do not have a meeting scheduled as of yet, but there is, as Mr. Green said, a tentative look to schedule a meeting on the 27th as well for a community conversation similar to what the committee did in February of last year. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Human Resources Administration and Appointments, Ms. Hott.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee met on January 23rd and forwarded an item on tonight's agenda. I'm sorry, excuse me. No future meetings are scheduled.
Thank you very much. Parks and Recreation, Ms. Mota.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has not met since the last council meeting. There are no future meetings scheduled.
Thank you very much. Public Safety, Mr. Hendricks.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has not met since the last council meeting. The next meeting is scheduled for February 13th at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you very much. Public Works, Mr. Zuppel.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has not met since the last council meeting. The next meeting is tentatively scheduled for February 20th at 5:45 p.m.
Okay, and Rules, Chambers, Intergovernmental Relations and Strategy, the committee has not met since the last meeting, and there are no future meetings scheduled. Now we come to what I always look forward to is the Controller's Report.
You look forward to it because you, sir, are a wise man.
We'll be starting nasty rumors now.
Three things. First, the controller is back on the transfer approval list for transfers over $5,000. So it'll go to administration, then it'll go to me, and after I sign off, it'll go to council. If I have questions about the transfer, I'll do my due diligence with the departments or the administration, and then forward any information to Mr. Hanlon for distribution to council. So there are a couple in there now that I worked through. I have a couple more on my desk that I'm waiting for answers on, and hopefully we'll get them, in the near future.
Can I ask you a question about that? There was a transfer for, I think it was $5,000 for, they were supposed to be for 2018.
For which department, Mr. Greedy?
Can't remember the
It's
department.
got a yellow highlight on it, I think it's
Yeah.
Public Works.
Is this the solid waste for 22,000, Mr. Greedy, is that the one
I
you're?
think it was,
Yeah, and I just signed off on that today. The monthly solid waste bills that we get from Waste Management have two components to them. One is a basic service component, and the other one is a tonnage component. The basic service component was billed throughout the years per the contract. The tonnage varies as to how much waste we dispose of, and we disposed of a lot more waste this year. Hence, we need a little bit of money to cover it. So, and I discussed that with Ms. Sauerman today, and was more than satisfied with the response.
so that would be like account payable for that?
Well, I think they're trying to account for some variation, but this was beyond what they were able to account for, so.
Yeah, because we already in February, and I guess we usually do like 2 or 3 December financial reports. So I guess it would be in the second December financial report.
Well, I don't think they get their bill, this final bill, until sometime in December. Because the November bill comes in, at the beginning of December and was paid by the end of December. So this would have come in later.
Okay, thank you.
If Mr. Hartzell has anything to add. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Greedy. 2 quick audits to report on today. One is a bank reconciliation review for the month of October. I'll let you know that we're working on November now. We hope to have that done shortly, and I'm sure December is right around the corner. There were 23 bank reconciliations in this reconciliation, and the amount of dollars is a little bit over $30 million. One issue is a recurring one. The checks were not voided on the ARP, which is a list of voided checks that the bank keeps. And it's important to do that, to have a proper audit trail. The administration agrees, and they'll continue putting in places to correct that. And there's an unreconciled difference on a bank reconciliation of $1.36. The difference appears to be due to the timing of various transactions. We recommend administration should revisit the reconciliation, and the difference should continue to be researched, and if not reconciled within a reasonable amount of time, the difference should be adjusted on the books. And administration responds to the recommendation, and they'll wait till the quarter's ended and decide what needs to be done with it. We also do periodically, various departments keep petty cash to either deal with their expenses or to deal with the public. We recently did an audit of the building maintenance cash count. We did that in the beginning of February. Actually, we did it in, the middle of January. The report is dated February 5th. We noted that there was a shortage in the petty cash fund of $25.93. The reasons for the shortage were the petty cash replenishment that had been issued on 31 August 2018 was not included in the cash fund. The replenishment was physically not in the box, but elsewhere in the office. Additionally, a petty cash voucher, which was reimbursed to an employee on the 22nd of August, was not with the petty cash fund and was only recovered after the controller's staff left the audit. In response to the shortage identified, the administration stated there's now a quarterly reminder in the building maintenance calendar to reconcile petty cash. The administration agrees the petty cash replenishment should be counted and immediately placed in the petty cash box, and we agree that all petty cash should be counted periodically. A calendar reminder has now been set for a monthly petty cash count. There's also a key fund. If somebody needs a replacement key and they need to come and pay for it. Since the last audit was conducted in July of 2017, although keys have been issued, no monies have been collected for the key fund. Additionally, as previously identified, Treasury maintains a listing of all cash funds maintained by the Bureau departments, including petty cash funds and registers. The key fund is not included in that listing. Although the Treasury was advised the key fund existed, there is no accounting for it on the general ledger. There is no formal procedure for accounting of the key fund. Once again, we recommend the key fund procedure should be developed by building maintenance in the Treasury. An account should be set up on the general ledger to account for the fund. The administration agrees with the recommendations, and a meeting will be scheduled to develop a key fund procedure. That's it, and we'll certainly do this again, and we'll determine how well the administration has followed through.
I know I joke about your reports, but I'm very happy to hear that you're finding a $1.36 mistake in over $100 million budget. I'm glad to hear that. I mean that seriously.
And I'll take that in the best way possible, sir. You know, for instance, you know, Philadelphia had thought they were short $33 million, and they're really determined after they spent another $500 and some thousand dollars that they were pulling money from the wrong accounts. You know, we do our best and to make sure that expenditures are always drawn from the proper accounts as indicated in the budget. And I'm always grateful from the administration's support when we bring up that issue. So whether it's $1.36 or whatever, it's process and procedure. That's what we're about.
That's what I said. I commend you for that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Administration report. I'm sorry, any questions for the controller from my colleague? I'm sorry. See another? Okay.
And administration is also very thankful to Mr. Glazer for his due diligence. It's a good checks and balance, and obviously we need that, and we work with the controller every day.
Good.
My report, Mr. President, we submitted an application for a skate park grant. We also submitted an application with the Allentown School District for a violence reduction, implementing restorative practices in our elementary and secondary schools. The city will be sponsoring the Cinco de Mayo event, May 4th, Center City. Our fire department is going to sound the alarm, save a life, smoke detectors giveaway. Ms. Rona, you were at the one on the east side in the fall. We're going to do that on Saturday, April 27th, 8:30 to 2:30. National Take Back Day, medications that are in the homes that should no longer be utilized. That is also Saturday, April 27th, sites to be determined. Our Vision 2030, our next meeting is tomorrow night, Thursday, February 7th, 6 to 8, South Mountain Middle School. This will be the second one. We had the first one at East Side Youth Center in the fall. Yesterday, Jessica Barricade, we did a vendor workshop. Amazing. We had 61 vendors signed up. We could only handle 50 of them. People are wanting to come back to do business with the city of Allentown, and we're so thankful for that. We held that yesterday, 50 vendors attended. We will be holding another one for the overflow that couldn't make yesterday. And last Thursday, we scored 5 new police officers, and we'll continue. We're being very aggressive in hiring police officers going forth. And that is my report, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I mean, we had our
Yes.
little discussion offhand about maybe getting a little bit of advance.
Absolutely, we're taking care of it. Understood.
Appreciate it very much. Okay, we're at appointments. Mr. Hanlon. Is that, well, Mr. Hanlon has to review it.
Okay, the first appointment is the appointment of Mr. Meldman to the Environmental Advisory Council, and the term would extend to 1/1/2022.
All right, Ms. Hasler, go ahead. That's usually what you read, but.
Yeah. Are you reading because I can't pronounce the names? Is that what?
I was going to file a grievance.
All right. David Millman for the Environmental Advisory Council. Do I have any comments from my colleagues on the appointment of David Millman? Seeing none. Anyone from the audience? Okay. Mr. Hamlin, can we take a vote?
Ms. Zappa?
Yes.
Mr. Greedy?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Zuko?
Yes.
Ms. McLean?
Yes.
Great, that's the meeting.
I believe, David Norman, are you here?
I am.
Would you like to come up and say a few words?
I would. Thank you. I'd like to thank the members of City Council for my reappointment to the Environmental Advisory Council. I love to be involved. I found it to be an extremely rewarding experience. We have a lot of good work that we're planning for next year, as you heard from our chairperson, Tinku, and I'm excited to be part of it. And I thank you all for your yes vote.
Thank you for volunteering your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. No, I mean, I love doing it. It's a lot. It's really enjoyable. It's an excellent cause. There's a lot of good work to be done in Allentown. And I'm just really happy to be a part that I can help in any way I can.
And now we'll get you the meeting in here instead of in the basement.
That would be great. The basement is pretty awful down there. So if we could be in here, that would be fantastic.
Sure.
But I really express my full gratitude. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Okay. All right. The next one is the Sheet Metal Technician Board. Frank F. Frankenfield. His term runs till 2022. Have any comments from my colleagues? Seeing none. Anyone from the public? Seeing none? We have a vote?
Okay, Mr. Frankenfield, Mr. Grady.
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Ms. Zuko.
Yes.
Ms. McLean.
Yes.
Ms. Zappa.
Yes.
President Sergio.
All right. We also have, the next one is the, pardon? Oh, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting that. Is he here, Mr. Frank? Evidently not. Okay. All right. The next one is for the Allentown Planning Commission. It's Aldrich Oric III, Esquire. His term runs to 2022 also. Anything from my colleagues? No?
Well, just, it's food check.
I'm sorry. Food check. What did I say? Sound like that.
Not even close.
No? This is the one you should have said, Mr. Is there anything from the public? Seeing none, we want to take a vote?
Okay, on the appointment of Ole Kuchek, Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Ms. Zuko.
Yes.
Ms. McLean.
Yes.
Ms. Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. Grady.
Yes.
President Sergio.
Mr. Fuchek here. All right. Next, we have vacant property review board, the planning board. This is Marlene Branitz, and her term runs to 2022. Any comments from my colleagues on Marlene Branitz? Seeing none, anything from the public? Seeing none. Now we have a vote.
Okay, on the appointment of Ms. Granitz, Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Ms. Zuko.
Yes.
Ms. McLean.
Yes.
Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. Grady.
Yes.
Ms. Hendricks.
Yes.
Ms. Grant's here. Okay, next we have, I think we have Anissa now, right? Yes, that was Arlene. We have Adrian Shanker for the Anissa board. His term will run to 2022 also. Do I have any comments from my colleagues?
Just a quick statement, Madam Chair. I know from a conversation with Mr. Shanker that he put extensive time into preparing for any questions or concerns that we might have, so perhaps we could allow him to sort of address what his feelings are about the board and a few things, just for a few minutes, since I know he did put a lot of time and effort into preparing.
We'll do that after the vote.
Well, no, I'm just saying if we want to do it before, because he did spend a lot of time preparing on it. That was my only suggestion.
Adrian?
And I would have been happy to speak afterwards, but I thought that perhaps there might be questions about Anissa because of the nature of some of the media conversations about Anissa. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight and the importance of Anissa as an agency within the city. Allentown is a city with a promise, but I didn't always feel that way. 15 years ago, in my first few months living in Allentown, I rode my bike downtown from Muhlenberg to check out our city. And I remember that almost everything was closed downtown in the middle of a weekday. At the time, there was always conversations about the brain drain of college students leaving after they graduated. And we can understand why. There wasn't a lot to do in Allentown. There wasn't a lot that inspired young adults to want to stay here. Today, I have the privilege of leading a vibrant cultural nonprofit in downtown Allentown. I live next door as a tenant in a NIS-constructed residential building, and I frequent many of the new restaurants and shops that have opened as a result of the NIS. All in, I believe that the NIS has made a positive impact. And people can argue over the original goals of the NIS and if they were appropriate. I think that there's no legitimate arguments over if those goals have been achieved, even if people might argue about what they should have been from the beginning. But I think that right now it's time to move that goalpost. We have many new jobs, new businesses, new buildings, the start of a new skyline in Allentown. There's more work to be done around all of those things, but in my opinion, I think that the future of a NISDA is that we should be moving some of our goals and making some changes. That the structure of the NIS itself is good and it works. That the idea that our resources should stay in Allentown to fund future projects makes sense. But that we should reprioritize what that looks like, and we should add greater prioritization to things like public art, environmental justice, streetscaping, alleyways. We should find opportunities to support surrounding neighborhoods and make sure that the benefits of the NIS can resonate more clearly throughout Allentown. We can do this work with improved transparency, which has been a problem, in my opinion, for a NISDA, and a NISDA can do a much better job at hearing community concerns and critiques of their work. When Representative Schweier asked if I would consider serving Allentown in this capacity, my first response was no. It didn't seem like something that I really wanted to spend my time doing because I wasn't sure that there was interest in changing some of the way that NISDA has operated. But that I would serve if it was the vision that the city wanted. That there was an interest in seeing more than just new buildings, but a kind of community-wide approach to how our city can come back. And this can be more than it has been. Our city can be more progressive than it has been. I'm very open to volunteering to serve Allentown because I believe that that's probably a vision that the city is looking for. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any before your vote.
I have a question.
Sure.
Thank you for your willingness to serve on this board, Mr. Chandler. And I love to hear what you said because I'm asked the same question by people in the neighborhood. That, what else the NISDA does? What do they do for my neighborhood, for my business, for my area? And I've been here for a long time, and I don't get a penny from the city, they say. But what do they do for us? And we give our tax dollars to them, in effect. So I really would like to see you taking charge of that, doing more for the neighborhoods. And I know they do some, don't get me wrong, they do some, but it's very hard. It's not as tangible as people would like it to see it. And the other issue is I often think that we should do, or the NISDA board should do a better job marketing what they're doing in Allentown, and marketing the properties, and marketing the neighborhoods, and marketing the city. And I really would like to commend you for looking to that as well, see if we can get more interest from. And I know the mayor just said, hey, look, we have chance for 50 businesses or vendors, and we have 61, I think you said, applied. But I think it's more than that. I think it's what people who are already here and have businesses for a long time, what do they feel when they're not part of the NISDA, but they're paying into it, and other people are making money out of it?
One of the critiques has been that it's developers receiving benefit, right? And it's often NISDA not doing a very good job of communicating what that benefit is meant for the school district and what it's meant for the tax base in the city. And yet some of the critique is also valid, that there are more creative things that are allowed within the NIS legislation that are not being looked at because it's not as linear. things around, solar on publicly owned buildings, like city or county-owned buildings within the NIS. Things like improved public spaces and public art within the NIS itself. Those projects are allowed within the legislation, but the creativity has not been there, in my opinion, among the leadership and the board members in the past. It needs to be, because the criticism has some validity, even if it also doesn't maybe know all of the positive benefits that have happened already.
I'm glad you said that, because I think the transparency that you're talking about is what we needed more of, and also making sure that we market it more. I was president of council when we brought the NISTA here, and when we started a lot of these programs and projects, and I never looked back. I loved it. I think it's a great thing. It's the best thing I think we've done in the city since I've been here, and it's I always defend it because I think it's what we needed to do. However, I do agree that we need to do more into marketing and a little bit more transparency, and exactly what you said earlier. So, thank you.
I hope that everyone say yes and vote jointly. I think that they need young people, new set of eyes, people that are, that live here in the city of Allentown, new blood. I think that that's what they need, and just welcome, Thank you.
Yes, Mr. President.
Go ahead, Mr. Rhodes.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Shanker, for your presentation and your willingness to serve. I have two questions for you. The first is, could you talk a little bit about some of your specific ideas in terms of trying to improve transparency?
Yeah, and this is a city agency responsible for the allocation of public dollars in a way that is not insignificant. I think that comes with a responsibility to have a much more transparent process about not only how can people who might be interested in submitting ideas for proposals for the city that it is that might consider, to really have a stronger, more transparent understanding of what that process would look like, but also that anyone in the city or broader community can understand what happens with those decisions when it is voting on it, and also understanding the accountability of follow through. Are the commitments that developers making to an ISA being followed through? That also relates to transparency. So I just think that it's important for any public body to consider how transparent things are, and I err on the side of more. But I think that when it's a city agency tasked with the allocation of funds, that is even a higher priority.
Excellent, I agree with you. You sort of answered my second question when you touched on the solar on public buildings, which you and I spoke about. But could you also talk about some of your ideas in terms of, other than just potentially solar, which I think is a great idea, but other things that you feel that the INISTA board could be looking at funding throughout the community to broaden its message and its mission?
And ISTA is a great opportunity for developers to come up with more creative projects, and we've seen that with some of the buildings that have been constructed. But in my opinion, the ISTA board has missed their opportunity to consider, some things that are more creative in terms of, what Allentown might look and feel like from, what kind of city do we want to have? Do we want to have a city where we have buildings that are environmentally sustainable for our future, or do we have buildings that are being, built with materials that might be less environmentally friendly? And I'm not saying any specific developer, any specific building, right. But just as a value statement that I believe in this, that can encourage strongly developers to make decisions about the materials that they're using, the amount of energy that buildings will utilize, how that energy will be taken care of, measuring sun exposure before buildings go up. understanding how that might affect other buildings as well, and other energy costs around the city. But solar is only one small piece of environmental justice. What we were talking about was that, public buildings, publicly owned buildings, city, county buildings, can see long-term savings. And it seems to me to be very legitimate to support that within ISTA funds as well, and also allow for tax dollars to be saved while we're also making statements that our government-owned buildings are a little bit more environmentally just.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Schenker. I would echo the sentiments that Ms. Moga just uttered, which I hope all of my colleagues would vote yes, and I thank you for your willingness to serve. I think you're going to bring a unique and valuable perspective to the board if we approve your appointment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Anybody else from council? Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you, Adrian.
Oh, Mayor, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'd like to make a suggestion to council that we invite Cy Traub, the chairperson of ISTA, and Steve Adford, executive director from ISTA, and any board members that might want to attend. I think it's imperative that we find out what they're doing, how they're doing it, and I just scratched the surface tonight, but I think it would be good for an update. And Cy Traub has offered that on many occasions, so that's my suggestion to council.
Actually, I think we can do it through the Community Economic Development Committee one day.
I would be happy to look at scheduling that. If Mr. Greedy and Ms. Alpha, we can talk offline, try to find a date for that and move forward with it, but I think that would be a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
Yeah, I'd just like all the council to be there though, so we can do it under Community and Economic Development rather than Committee of the Whole, but I would hope that all council could be there.
I would agree, Mr. President. In fact, I would look to if we can schedule it out far enough to do it on a council evening prior to a council meeting, because I also think that it would be good for the majority of the public who would be coming to a council meeting to have the opportunity to attend. So I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Alpha, we're back to you.
Back to me. We have the comments from my colleagues. Do we have any more comments on Mr. Schenker's appointment from the public? Seeing none, Mr. Hamlin, you want to take a vote?
Okay, Mr. Schenker, Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Zupa.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. Greedy.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Moga.
Yes.
Mr. President, 7 yeas and 2
All right, the next on the agenda is, I believe, we're at Human Relations Commission. Scotty G. Smith, that was an easy one. Scotty G. Smith.
You had enough time to study.
His term runs through 2022 also. Do I have any comments from my colleagues on Scotty G. Smith?
I know Scotty for many years, and I think he's a great addition to the board.
This is the Human Relations. Anyone from the public? Mr. Smith. Seeing none, Mr. Hamlin?
Okay, on Smith, Mr. Zupa.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. Greedy.
Yes.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Mr. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
President, 7 yeas and 2 nays.
Moving on to the Arts Commission. Mary Viola, her term will end on 2024. Do I have any comments from my colleagues? Seeing none. Anyone from the
Can I make
public?
a comment? Can I make a comment?
Oh, sure.
Mary Viola works in my office. She's a very dedicated employee, very committed employee, and she goes to the Arts Commission every month and when they have a meeting, and Mary's a fine addition. And I would like to see her continue in the Arts Commission.
All right. Anything other? Seeing none, can we take a vote? No another? Okay, take a vote, Mr. Hamlin.
Okay, on the appointment of Ms. Viola, Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Ms. Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. Greedy.
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Mr. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Zupa.
Yes.
Mr. President, 7 yeas and 2 nays.
Would you like to speak?
Absolutely. Good evening, Mr. President, City Council, and Mayor O'Connell. I wanted to say thank you very much for reappointing me as member of the Allentown Arts Commission. Serving on this commission the past 2 years has enabled me to become more aware of public art in the community and it has also helped me to grow within the community and getting to know other people. And I look forward to serving for another year on the commission as a representative of Mayor O'Connell's office. Thank you very much.
Just letting you know, you're on till 24, not just one more
Thank
year.
you very much.
All right, I believe the last one we have is for the Ethics Board. Edward Yarish, his term goes to 2022.
We have a comment also.
All right. Any comments from our colleagues on this? Seeing none. The public? There. Mr. McKay.
Yeah, I'd like to, I want to welcome Ed back to City Hall. Ed was Joe Dodona's assistant in a similar position that I'm in the 1970s. So I think he's a great addition. A very intelligent, thoughtful person who I think will be a great addition to the Ethics Board. In addition, I want to also say to Roger, I've known Scotty G. Smith for a very long time, and he'll be a great addition as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McMahon. Any other comments from the public? We'll take a vote, Mr. Allen.
We're going to Mr. Yarish to the Ethics Board. Mr. Atbar.
Yes.
Mr. Grady.
Yes.
Mr. Ricks.
Yes.
Gordon.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Mizuko.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Where's that 7 years?
Is Mr. Yarish here? Are you?
Thank you very much for your vote. I appreciate it. I hope that I will, in doing whatever efforts are necessary for this job that I don't really fully understand yet, demonstrate the fact that it was a good choice that you made. By the way, as I sit here tonight with a sense of deja vu all over again, because I was here for like 6 years, I'm very pleased to hear the camaraderie up front of the room and the little bit of banter amongst you. It has felt like warm and inclusive, which is a very nice thing to feel in a public kind of circumstance, and the stresses that are usually there in trying to get people to work together. So I congratulate you on that, and thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you and congratulations. That wraps it up.
Okay.
Mr. President?
All right, thank you. We'll move on to ordinances for final passage. 89 is being pulled, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so
Bill 1. Bill 1 amends the 2019 general fund budget to provide for supplemental appropriation of $120,000 from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development for the early intervention program.
Mr. Grady?
Sure. As I said before, this is a bill that's going to help us look into the finances of the city and other issues throughout the city. It's a grant that we're getting. The total amount will be $150,000. We will have to put up about $30,000 for online, and we're looking to getting more information, more support, more ideas on how we can help our city to be more financially viable. We reviewed, last thing we did was review the request for proposal, and that should be out, right? Okay, so, all right, good. And we'll be working on this, we've been working for a while on it, but I think it's coming to a good start of the actual work soon. And I think it's a good thing. I would ask all my council members, fellow council members, to vote for this unanimously.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else from council? Administration, Mr. Hartzell, did you want to add anything?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you very much. Very briefly, the RFP is indeed public, and applications will be taken until March 1st. One of my staff had come over from purchasing yesterday to indicate to me that a couple potential vendors have already asked some technical questions with respect to the proposal, which means we're definitely getting a lot of looks, and I expect that out of that we will get some very good candidates to fulfill the role.
Hopefully so. Thank you very much. Anything from the public? Lou, you gotta sit in the front of the room.
You can go with me outside. I think we tried this back in
2002 or 3 or 4.
2000. And it was successful. They brought up about a lot of information, but the problem is, there's a lot of recommendations that got to be implemented. I mean, one of the things that they came up with the 5-year financial plan was for the benefits to see around. And my concern is, suppose they recommend bankruptcy, what are you going to do?
I don't think that's going to happen, but if it does, it will be very difficult because that would mean that we have to kind of void all contracts that we have.
The mayor recommended, the mayor has told us he's facing deficits of like $5 million per year the next 5 years. I mean, that's a lot of money to make up. And, you know, there's what they call Chapter 9 bankruptcy that municipalities go through. We don't go through the Chapter 11, so the things are different in Chapter 9.
Yeah, well, the city can't really go into bankruptcy, as you know.
Well, we could, Chapter 9, some municipalities are in Chapter 9 over here.
Well, it's
Grand, I think, Pittsburgh,
we'll call it bankruptcy.
So they call bankruptcy, Chapter 9. I was in the rent and then they appoint somebody from Harrisburg or any operation. I mean, the way you, I mean, and that was my question, and I want to present this, I forgot to bring up before, where you guys pass a budget reducing the police department by 1 member. Here, Mr. Chairman, I hope you put the patrolman back on. They just took out their budget.
We'll look at that even though it's not on the bill.
You just took it out of the budget, you have to put it back in. Or you should have put the patrolman back in. Okay, sorry. You just passed the budget.
The total manpower is still the same, but the sergeant's position was made.
The chief is trying to
Chief
create
was making
a
up
band
some.
structure for retirement.
Okay, so the total number of
I
officers.
agree, but this is, you has more people on the street, and that's why you looked at that budget. You wanted more people on the street, I mentioned that last meeting.
All right, it's not on the bill here, Lou, but a sergeant would more than likely be out on the street.
Right, I looked around 8 hours.
Well, but if the chief
Well, yeah,
don't
we
need
need
the
to
sergeant,
better,
then
you
you
gotta
gotta
go with him. I was looking for the patrolman.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, anybody else on the bill? Mr. Hubbard.
Yes, good evening. My name is Joe Hoffman. I live at 761 St. John Street in the city. This RFP is for a comprehensive look at the finances of the city, leading to a whole slew of recommendations, right?
Correct.
Including recommendations for revenue enhancement as well as appropriate cuts in places in the budget. Where in the world does bankruptcy come in? I mean, yes, you're in the hole a little bit, but you just announced something 2 weeks ago that you were $2 million to the good this year. Well, how do we get from that to like the worst possible conclusion? I saw communities that had to go that way. West Hazelton is the one that pops in my mind the most. They were literally down to the point where they were not permitted to plow snow. When the snow fell on the street and they asked the appointed city manager, you know, what are you going to do about the snow? He said, April. They were cut down to a single police officer. All of their social services were closed. I would really like to urge city council. I mean, I know I've come up here a lot and I don't want to just keep reinventing the wheel every time I come up. But honest to God, I swear to you, there's a 1,000 different things you could still do that you haven't done yet. And I'd be willing to bet if you get a good vendor here, he's going to tell you a large percentage of them. And if he misses any, you know, I'll give you a helpful hint here or there. But please, let's not get that far ahead of the horse. Yeah, this city needs some financial help, but it is nowhere near something like that.
And Mr. Zuckel, Mr. Garidi, and Mr. Hendricks have been working on this committee, and I expect some good results out of that. Bankruptcy wasn't broached by council.
I just wanted to make sure, because I honestly do believe that there are ways you can raise money that you haven't tried yet.
Yeah,
So at least try them
That was his-
before resorting to anything.
I think that was an exaggeration on Mr.
Mr. Hirschman's Titanic
Yeah.
amendment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anything else from the public? Seeing nobody, Mr. Allen.
Okay, on the, Bill 1, Mr. Grady.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrick.
Yes.
Mota.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Zuko.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
Zappa.
Yes.
There's 7 yeas and no nays.
Okay, resolutions for final passage, please, R7.
R7 is a denial of a certificate of appropriateness at 425 North 10th Street.
All right, and this was in your committee, Mr. Robinson? I believe?
Yes, it was, Mr. President. We forwarded this favorably. I will allow Mr. Kimmerly to speak on the specifics, but I will also just state that out of the specifics of this case, there was also a useful discussion on the nature of satellite dishes in general in the historic districts, with some suggestions brought forward by myself, Mr. Greedy, and Ms. Affa and others to try and deal with this problem. And some of those were taken under advisement by Mr. Kimmerly and the department to look at ways that we can better communicate with the providers of satellite service to communicate with their third-party vendors who are installing the satellites as to the nature of what they need to be in the historic district. So, Mr. Kimmerly, if you wanted to just go over the specifics of R7, please.
Thank you. Yes, this is a property at 425 North 10th Street that has a satellite dish installed on the front porch. It's right in the front of the building, which is a clear violation of the historic district ordinance. The property owner was issued a notice of violation on December 5th. And in that violation letter, he has the option to more or less appeal and come to the board and state reasons why he put it in that location and ask to have it stay there. The meeting was scheduled, and that would have been the early part of January, and he did not attend that meeting of the hard board, so the board denied it. And as a result, it went to the CED committee, and now we're looking at the violation here for to be upheld, the recommendation of the hard.
Thank you very much. I was at that meeting too. I believe there had been a previous.
Yes.
Same thing.
Yes, about 5 years ago, I guess it was 2012 or 2013, there was a similar violation. The satellite dish was in the exact same location as it is now. And at that time, it was the issue was resolved. However, again, about maybe it was a little while ago, maybe about a year ago or so, the satellite dish came back up again.
Okay, so thank you. It's kind of clear cut for me. Anything else from council?
I would also just say, Mr. President, that the property owner did not show up to the CED meeting either.
Correct. Okay. Council, nobody? Anybody from the public? Seeing nobody, Mr. Hammond.
Okay, on the denial of the certificate of appropriateness, Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Mota.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
7 yeas and no nays.
Thank you very much. R8.
R8 authorizes the disposition of certain records pursuant to the State Records Retention Act.
I think that's the housekeeping. Part of the administration. Anything from council? Anything from the public? Seeing nobody, Mr. Hanlon.
Ms. Mota.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Zappa.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Ordinances for introduction. Bill number 6, please.
Bill 6 amends the 2019 grant fund budget to provide for supplemental appropriation of $146,784 from the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency as a pass-through grant to fund the Allentown War Violence Program being implemented by Thomas neighborhoods.
Okay, Mr. Hendricks, that'll be going to you. Any comments? Seeing nobody. Bill 7, please.
Bill 7 amends the 2019 general fund budget to provide for supplemental appropriation of $10,000 to resolve a grant from the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development to the City of Allentown for the purchase of drones to be utilized to document major accidents and crime scenes.
Okay, that will also go to you, Mr. Hendricks, in public safety. Any comments?
Mr. President, I'm just curious if Mr. Zuckel's going to be the pilot for that program. So,
The training schedule is going.
Creating a real bonus. Okay, seeing nobody. To Mr. Hendricks. All right, Bill 8.
Bill 8 amends the 2019 general fund budget to provide for supplemental appropriation of $150,000 from the United States Department of Justice for body-worn camera enhancements.
Okay. Any comments? Seeing nobody. Mr. Hendricks, you're going to be busy.
Yes.
I'll go to you. Thank you. Bill number 9, please.
Bill 9 amends the 2019 general fund budget to provide for a supplemental appropriation of $55,700 as a result of a United States Department of Justice grant to the City of Allentown for the purchase of 55 ballistic tactile helmets, 4 portable radar speed signs, and $12,000 will pass through to the County of Lehigh for the purchase of their drone camera.
Okay, any comments? Seeing none, again, Mr. Hendricks.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Bill number 10, please.
Bill 10 amends the parking meters by authorizing the parking authority to fix, alter, change, and collect parking rates and changes for on-site parking for specific location, dates, and hours to promote and allow for flexibility in the fixing and adjustment of parking rates to promote downtown business and the public welfare, to take advantage of technological advancements in the parking industry, and when necessary, account for scheduled events in the downtown business area of the city, which are better served by off-street parking facilities, and making adjustments to Article 333 to comply with these changes.
Okay, now we're going to do a committee of the whole, and are we scheduled for that for next week, or am I dreaming?
Yeah,
next week. Next Wednesday. Okay, so that'll be on the agenda for next Wednesday, committee of the whole. Any comments? Seeing nobody. Resolutions for introduction. We have none. Any new business? Good and welfare. Anybody want to adjourn?
Yes.
Motion. Okay.